Good morning, everybody. It's now Saturday morning at around 9 o'clock. As I said, I did not stay up last night to watch the prejudging live. The men's open wouldn't have started until minimum 11 o'clock last night for me where I'm at, so wasn't going to stay up and watch that this year. As I said, I probably wouldn't since Kai wasn't in it, but still very interested to see what was going on. Now the field is kind of wide open for other people to come in and challenge Phil Heath. So I woke up this morning and watched all the replays and the recaps and tried to really put together a good picture for myself of what's really going on. And I went through and looked at everything. I'm going to go over first just a recap of some of the individuals that I thought stood out to me either as a big surprise or a big disappointment. Then I'll go over how I think the judges are going to place them based on just how they position people in the prejudging. Anything can happen last night, but this is always a good indicator of where everyone's going to be within 2 or 3 placings of what their final place is going to be. And then last thing I want to do is talk about how, from what I saw, I would put things a little differently, just from my personal perspective, just throwing my opinion out there of how I would differ a little bit from what the judges showed. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at some of the people that really stood out to me yesterday. Now, the first person who really stood out to me was Dexter Jackson. I mean, he's 46 years old. This is, I believe, his 16th Olympia appearance, which is a ridiculous record. He holds all kinds of records as far as he's the most winningest bodybuilder in history. Ridiculous conditioning. He's unbelievably consistent, not just for his age, but for how long he's been competing. Most people, their bodies would be really broken down and wouldn't be able to maintain the same level as in their prime. And I wasn't sure. From seeing Dexter earlier this year and last year, I knew he was going to come in great shape as usual, but again, just based on his long history and his age, I wasn't expecting him to be as good as he was. He came out, and I think he might even be the best Dexter we've ever seen. He really looks like 2008 Dexter Jackson, who was Mr. Olympia, but bigger. And the most ridiculous part is that he's come in bigger. 7 years later, he's come in a bigger Dexter and has not lost any of that quality muscle. He has not lost any of that sharpness. We call him the Blade for a reason. He didn't lose any definition. He didn't lose any graininess. Nothing in putting on that extra weight, which is ridiculous and really makes him a threat. I could definitely see him being a guaranteed top 3, and he could possibly even push Phil. The next person who came out that really was a standout for me was Big Ramy, the big mass monster, still probably the biggest on stage, definitely biggest legs on stage, but he was holding a lot of water, and that was very disappointing for me because he was someone who was a bit of a wild card. We didn't know if he was going to come in too big and unrefined and be pushed out of the top 6 or come in and challenge the top 3. There was really no way to tell until he was on stage, and sadly though, it's even going to be hard for him to be in the top 5 or 6, I think. Without that definition, he won't easily crack the top 5. He'll easily crack the top 10 just with that size and shape alone, but top 5, 6, I don't know if the conditioning is there, and he does still have the problem of his quads are overpowering, they're almost too big, and that really washed out look he has right now won't help. A lot of it will depend on how he dries out before the finals. That can make a big difference. Probably still not enough to crack that top 3 or 4 definitely, but enough where if he really dries out between now and Saturday night, tonight, he could make a big difference as far as placing 5th or 6th. If he does, he could hit that 6th place definitely. Big disappointment here though. The call-outs made Ramy's washed-out look stand out even more, I think. Just comparing him directly to other people rather than just by himself, I think it stood out more than when he was on his own. He tried to come in a little bit too big, I think. He's really known for the size more than anything, and I think he focused too much on that. Definitely ridiculous size and good shape make him a contender, but there's no way he can improve enough, I think, to challenge the top 3 or 4 guys. Definitely 5 or 6 is the best he's going to get this year. Victor Martinez came out, and old school Victor Martinez is one of my favorite bodybuilders ever. 2007 Victor Martinez I would probably easily place in my top 12, maybe even top 10 physiques of all time, but his body just can't bring himself back to its former glory. He's really done at this point with everything that he's gone through, and his body's been through way too many ups and downs, especially after his imprisonment. He's come back amazingly, more than I thought, honestly, but he really just came out looking okay, but not enough for him to reclaim that glory and crack top 6. I mean, anything's possible, but I really doubt it. I actually think he might even be fighting hard to even make the top 10. I was going to place him, I think, just seeing him individually when he first came out, bottom of the top 10. But as far as the judges calling him out, I don't even think they're even thinking of making him top 10. Who knows? More sad news came that they announced that Cedric McMillan withdrew due to sickness, which was a real shame because I was really hoping to see an awesome showing from this guy. Mostly I was really hoping for him to come in and place several spots above Branch Warren and really show him who's boss and that he should have won before Branch should not be in the Olympia. It's really sad, and he has that classic physique that I really like, someone who I think if judging was more fair and he came in a little more shredded, he'd be a top 5 contender. He's someone who I really hope is actually behind the scenes shifting to the NPC, the Inspire physique. I really hope he does that, but we'll see what happens. Maybe that is what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe he's not sick. I don't know. Maybe he is really sick. We'll see what happens there. Next person was Dennis Wolf, big crowd favorite. Everyone went a little nuts when he came out. Came in with awesome conditioning, great size, good shape as usual. I definitely think he, standing behind a curtain just with the shadow, he outclasses Phil Heath. And in the past few years, he's finally got a grasp on his consistency. He was someone who could come in looking like top 5 or come in barely looking like top 10, and you never knew what we were going to get. But last couple of years, he's continuously come in like a top 3 or 4 looking guy. The calves are still a serious weak point, though, and they don't seem like a massive weak point, but when he's only, in every other category, a point or two away from someone like Phil Heath neck and neck, that one weakness can be the thing that drops him 2 spots easily. His back looks better than usual. It looks really full and really conditioned to the point where you can see detail. Definitely easily top 4 and can challenge Phil. Can he overcome him? It's going to be close. I don't know. Sean Roden, of course, came out. He looked huge compared to last year. He kept the conditioning as well, though. That was something I was worried about with him, putting on more weight. His stomach isn't 100% as sharp as last year due to size, but it's still really controlled and conditioning. He looks fantastic. Definitely, again, I said, a little bit more weight in the stomach area, but he definitely is not holding water. He's not coming out on the sides either, so it makes his waist is still thin, even though the stomach is out a little bit more. But as long as he keeps control of it, it doesn't show out, at all. Definitely fighting for top 3. In some shots, he was in better shape than Phil. I think. I think his legs are actually even better than Phil's, but his back isn't quite up to par with Phil's, and neither are his arms. Overall, I think he's in nicer shape than Phil. I could definitely see him coming in that number 2 spot and really pushing Phil Heath. Of course, if Phil comes out, he looks vastly improved from last year's disaster, which I was expecting. I was not expecting a repeat of last year, but he was definitely not, 2010, 2011 Phil. He looks good all around, but he isn't invulnerable. He didn't come in the best shape ever. He doesn't pop as much as we usually expect him to. He looks good, but a little flatter than usual. Sean Roden, Dennis Wolf, and Dexter Jackson can all push him, but I think that's really a defined top 4. I don't think anyone else could even come in with those 2 at all. It's going to be fights for spots 5 and lower. Looking at some other ones here, Rolly Winkler was one I was really looking forward to seeing if he was going to either be a huge disappointment or he was going to be a showstopper, and he didn't disappoint. I was really worried about his gut control and bloating after the past couple of years, but he showed up conditioned and in control. His arms are still, the freakiest in the business, but thankfully he has brought up his chest and kept it up and stopped his arms from taking over and standing out too much. I could honestly see him cracking the top 6 this year, which was really great. Branch Warren, of course, I have to talk a little bit about because he'll place higher than I think he should, so someone who is probably part of the top 10 I want to look at. He looks thick and dry as usual, definitely. He's very consistent with that, but again, he naturally lacks a great shape. His natural physique, something you can't really change that much, is lacking. And he looks like a bloated, muscular toad. I have him making the top 10, but at the bottom of the top 10, which probably means the judges will have him fighting for 6th through 8th. He's always gifted a few spots, and he's the one athlete, like an athlete or not, like their look at or not, I can always kind of understand why an athlete places close to where they were, even if I disagree, but Branch is the only athlete I do not understand. I have no idea why he's as successful as he is. Just don't get it with him. Someone who I think will get overlooked, who I kind of liked, was Ronnie Rockall. He looks good all around, really nothing amazing, he doesn't really stand out. he's good in every single category. I don't think he has a specific shot or a specific body part that is sort of lessening his overall physique, but he never looks amazing in any shot. Definitely fighting for the bottom of the top 10, I think. The callouts were really no surprise, especially for the top 4. It's really dead even fight between those 4. Phil is a little bit more vulnerable this year than usual, and it's not a one-on-one with Kai. There's more people fighting in the normal, and they're really going to be, honing in, focusing on Phil. The way they moved Dennis around, though, made me think they're going to drop him down to 4th. They moved him around with Sean Roden. They moved Dexter around, and eventually kind of put Dexter on the outside, and we're comparing Sean and Dexter to Phil a lot more. So it wouldn't surprise me if Dennis gets dropped down to 4th this year. Disappointing. But as far as my prediction, as far as how I think the judges will place the top 10, I definitely think it's going to be Phil in 1st, Sean Roden 2nd, Dexter Jackson 3rd, Dennis Wolf 4th, Big Ramey 5th, Rolly Winkler 6th, Branch Warren 7th, William Bonac 8th, Essa Obiad 9th, and 10 is kind of up for grabs. Possibly Victor Martinez, but we'll see about that. He might not even hit that number 10 spot. And of course that obviously, can be big changes tomorrow night, but as far as callouts, it's where I think people are in general going to be. How I would change things from what I personally saw, I would actually have Dexter winning the whole thing. And I would have Sean 2nd, Dennis 3rd, and Phil in 4th. And those, that could change for me tomorrow night, seeing how things are. Phil doesn't look his best this year, while everyone I put above him looks even better than they've ever looked before. And I think it pushes them all to be on par with Phil, if not better. So it's going to be really close between those 4. 5th, I have Big Ramey. 6th, Rolly Winkler. Depending what happens in the finals, though, I could see Rolly slip past Ramey, but it depends on conditioning. What happens in by the end of the night tonight? Those two could flip-flop very easily. But I have those, same order, those 2. William Bonac. And then I actually would put Victor as high as 8th, maybe 9th. I would have him definitely in top 10, though. And someone who I think got really overlooked was Juan Morel. Very surprised that he doesn't look like he'll make top 10. I would have him 9th. In 10th place, again, like what I think the judges are going to struggle with, kind of a crapshoot of a bunch of people that could really fill that spot. I would like to see Ronnie Rockel there, but maybe Branch Warren I could possibly put 10th, but I really wouldn't have Branch above 10th place. We'll see how things go. This was just prejudging, and we'll see what happens. I'll put up another video by the end of the night tomorrow when I watch the finals. I might stay up for those, who knows. If not, I'll watch everything first thing tomorrow morning. I'd rather stay up to see who wins live, so we'll just see. Though it depends how tired I am after coming home from work all night. We'll see what happens there, but I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for watching.